Hey everybody, this is Dr. William Clark and Dr. Philip Foster here for Leadership Conversations. This is the place where we talk about leadership and how it applies to your world. And today we're going to be talking about what's happening with the 40-hour work week. That's something that is evolving in the business world, and certainly as we've talked about entrepreneurship on this show and on this platform, certainly the 40-hour work week is a topic of conversation that needs to be explored even further. But before we get started, I wanted to give a chance to Dr. Foster to introduce himself, and then we'll go from there.
Well, good morning. My name is Dr. Philip Foster, and I am a strategist and leadership coach, executive coach. And I've been doing that for, about 12 years now, and I travel the world. I'm an author and speaker, and my main interest, my main focus is on the work of the future and the organization of the 21st century.
Great. And Dr. William Clark here, consultant to nonprofits and churches. I focus on leadership development and change management. So, Philip, let's start with the topic. What is going on with the 40-hour work week? What have you been reading and researching? What are you seeing in the marketplace?
Well, in the form of an almost shameless plug, I have been writing my next book, and it's focused on the organization of the 21st century. And one of the things that I'm finding a great deal is this conversation about moving away from the 40-hour work week. There's many different reasons why that we'll probably dig in today, but the crux to the problem is the conversation, or the question rather, is a 40-hour work week really effective? And what we're finding is that it isn't. And so we'll dig into that here in a little bit, but mainly what I'm finding is this conversation in organizations that are wanting to be more flexible and to maybe be more distributed or more competitive are finding that they can no longer require or demand their employees to work a 40-plus hour week.
So how does a 40-hour work week impact an organization's competitive nature, as you see it?
Well, the main thrust of that is how flexible they can be. I write about in my book, my last book, The Open Organization, is this idea of organizations needing to be more agile. Because we're in a global economy and things are moving really, really fast right now, we're finding that we need to be more competitive. We need to be able to move the ball more quickly. And so what I'm finding is that organizations are paying keen attention to this ability to move in a moment's notice. And so the 40-hour work week, it kind of limits or places the organization in a form of bondage, because it's a rigid structure that includes time, and we're in a timeless society now. We're in a 24/7 fast-moving society, and when you force employees to work a 40-hour or 40-plus hour work week, you're doing a lot of things to them physically and psychologically, and what you end up having are employees that just simply watch the clock because they're wanting to get home.
So now I hear you saying that a 40-hour work week can limit an organization's agility to make one particular business move or another. Are there specific industries or job types where a non-40-hour work week works best versus others?
Well, obviously there are some that it does not work best in, and we could name some of them very easily. Medicine sometimes does not lend itself to necessarily a beautiful 20-hour work week, 10-hour work week, because we're dealing with lives and a human life. And so a doctor just can't say, oh, I've been here 25 hours this week, I'm gone, I'm done. So medicine obviously is an area that cannot lend itself. There are other areas that will have more difficulty in it. Some of the service sector, like legal side of things, doesn't always fit nicely into a package smaller than 40-hour work weeks. And manufacturing also right now has a real difficulty in that, because when you're dealing with time scales and getting product in and out of a manufacturing facility, you have, I'm aware of some manufacturing that requires overtime. So that pushes you above the 40-hour and in some cases 35 hours of work, 35-hour work weeks.
In your business, as a consultant, teacher, trainer, how do you view the 40-hour work week, and how are you applying these principles of flex scheduling, flex work to folks on your team?
Well, I think as a consultant, what I try to do is create a bandwidth of work-life balance. Now, for some people, that's a bad word or a bad, statement of work-life balance. Some people don't like that. But the reality is, when I'm not working, I might be doing something here around the house. I might be spending time with my wife or my kids. So I am trying to find time that's purposeful to take time off. And so I think the key to this flex time is trying to capture more work-life balance for the worker more than a benefit write-off for the company. The benefit is a long-term benefit of a happy employee, a more productive employee. And in fact, what we're finding is that organizations that create more flexible work environments time-wise, and in some cases physicality where they work, like I think you're in a coffee shop today, they're finding that their employees are more productive because they're less likely to be worried about home life issues if they know they have the freedom to deal with home life issues and work.
That's interesting. Do you think the non-traditional 40-hour work week should come at the cost of burning through PTO, sick time, and other, time allotted from the company? Is it integrated? Does PTO go away? How should we be thinking about that?
Well, I think this is a broader conversation that could be had in another episode, but I think what we're finding is that organizations that are tweaking their timescales, they're also doing away with cumbersome policies and procedures that are related to PTO and other things. And so, my friend David Burkus, Dr. Burkus, who is a graduate of our school, he wrote a book called Under New Management. And in that book, he talks about organizations that are doing away with paid time off, doing away with paid vacation time. Now, that's not to say they're doing away with it and you can't take it. What they're saying is we don't have a set limit that you can take for paid time off or vacation time. And so I think what we're finding is that when you do away with a 40-hour work week and you tell a person you can work 25 hours, you can work 30 hours, whatever, what we find is employees tend to work more hours, and we find that the organizations are then in a position of telling them, take time off. And so it's really an interesting flip. And there are tons of articles out there right now on this discussion, and I'll tell you, and I'll post the link here. France is a country that's reviewing the 30-hour work. Actually, it's a 35-hour work week, and I just posted the link there. France reviews its 35-hour work week, and they're actually proposing going to a 25-hour work week. And then here's another link I'm going to post to the board, and it is the 25-hour work week and other radical ideas for better employee productivity. So there's a ton of articles out there right now in Inc. magazine, Fast Company, Forbes, newspapers. Huffington Post is running these articles, And so it's really interesting that this dynamic is taking off, and there's a lot of discussion out there about it. And I'm going to tell you, for the classical leader, the classically trained leader, the classical leader, the Gen Xer or older, this really scares the crap out of them because they don't know what to do with these ideas. They're like, well, this is never going to work.
The interesting thing that I'm taking away from what you're saying is, in terms, if we're going to begin to look at PTO, sick time, vacation time, the 40-hour work week, a couple of shows ago, we did the officeless economy. I think there's an integration between all of that, to be honest with you, because if the 40-hour work week is no longer kind of the standard, and we become more of an officeless economy, and that's how your business runs, it's reasonable to think that one's travel schedule, one's vacation schedule, can be fully integrated into one's work schedule. So while I'm at the Bahamas for the next 2 weeks with my family, it's conceivable to say that I've carved out a couple hours a day to answer emails, take conference calls, and then spend the rest of the day with family and friends. And it doesn't cut productivity because one of the hard things about taking off for vacation is the quiet time that's actually happening at the office. So in a situation where you may be the only employee or one of a handful of employees, your work for the most part stops while you're away. And if you notice that some people who take vacation still reply to emails, but they're being charged paid time off, unfortunately, while they're still replying to emails on vacation. So perhaps we're talking about something like that has kind of an integrated design where vacation, sick time, paid time off may not be as relevant versus saying, hey, we're going to work all year long and we expect, projects to get done within negotiated periods of time. And how you spend your time, where you spend your time becomes your responsibility.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point that I think that we need to capitalize on here for a moment. And that is that organizations that are moving toward a no-hour work week, in other words, they don't say you have 40 hours this week or 20 hours this week. They're just saying you just work. And I like Be More LLC said that they prefer work that focuses on completion of a specific task.
Right.
The fact of the matter is organizations are moving toward that task-oriented approach to getting things done. But let me go back to what you were talking about, and that is the person who takes time from their vacation to answer email.
Right.
And what I'm finding is, and what other researchers are finding, what my friend Dr. Burkus found in his book, Under New Management, is a lot of times organizations are saying when you go on vacation, don't check your email because we're going to shut your email off. There's going to be an automatic reply that goes out. So anyone that emails you, they're going to just get this reply saying you're on vacation and here's the person handling your stuff. And so there are even organizations right now that will turn email servers off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, in a 24/7 environment, there's some argument whether or not that's appropriate or not, but I'm just saying there are some organizations that are saying, listen, we're not going to give you paid time off. You just take the time when you need it. But oh, by the way, when you take it, don't work. So we're going to shut your email off and don't take your computer with you and give me your cell phone. Give me the company cell phone because nobody's going to call you, or shut it off. So there's interesting how these companies are becoming more conscious to the need for that quiet time that you mentioned, that need for the shutdown. So sounds like they're coming to get you, William. I'm just kidding. So my point is they're trying to shut down these employees so that they take the rest time that they need.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. And then there's the flip side where, perhaps we should not have a demarcation of time, period. Perhaps we should have, time commitment to a job should be just time committed to a job over a defined period of time, whether it's measured by months or years or weeks, and how you get things done, like Be More suggested, based on project, it's up to you. So that's a consideration. I think, as we're both building consulting businesses, or at least in your case, you are maturing your business and growing your business. And in my case, I'm creating a new business. There's consideration, at least for me, to be aware of the needs of my client and how to best address that, and then how to integrate that into the rest of my life. While the consulting business is important to me, there are other things that are equally important to me. And I think, Philip, this kind of takes us down a path that people need to explore, and that is, how is your life structured? And I'm not necessarily talking about time management. I think that's a worthy conversation. But what I'm specifically talking about is the life choices that one has made to have a life that is fully seamless and aligned from top to bottom. It's not, I guess we're living in an age where it's not wise to have a life that's fragmented and you have divergent interests that take away from each other. Perhaps it's more valuable, it's more advantageous to have a life that's fully integrated. And to be specific, you are a consultant and a teacher. And if you taught on subject matter that was different from your area of consultation, it will pull you away from your core competency, and it really wouldn't add value to the consulting services you provide, and vice versa. I know for me as a teacher, as a consultant, as a pastor, and even my personal interests, all of them are aligned in some of the same subject matters, which, includes leadership, it includes organizational design, it includes technology, it includes innovation, all those things I talk about, I write about, I consult on. And so whether I'm shifting from one area of my life to another, those subject matters are building upon each other as opposed to being fragmented interests that require new levels of energy and new levels of competency that I would have to develop, but will detract from other areas of my life where I may be looking to generate new revenue or to be productive.
Well, I think that the challenge is that when you're dealing with an organization of one, which technically that is you and I mean, we have a team of people that we collaborate with. And I think that's, again, another topic for another time of how you pull a team together to collaborate. I think there is a challenge. How do we best balance out work and play, or work and life and family, and for me, it's kind of easy because right now my kids are not here and I'm working from home. You could see I'm in my home office. When my kids are here, it's harder for me to work. So I either have to do like you're doing, go to a coffee house, or I do things that don't require live interaction with other people. And so there's that balance there. The other thing is, I'm finding organizations, and when I wrote my book, The Open Organization, I interviewed organizations that told me because they don't have this set time that employees take off or go home or come in, they have to actually tell people to go home. They have to actually tell people to shut it down and tell people to go on vacation and don't come back. And then there's another piece to that where there are organizations that once or twice a year actually shut the company down and do what's called an on-site. And what they do, or a remote site, what they do is they take the whole company, whether they're physically located in one place or they're dispersed around the world, and they bring them to some resort. And it could be Bali, it could be Hawaii, it could be, someplace in Japan, it could be Australia. I mean, anywhere, you name it. They take these people and they do, the first day is all about business. They spend a couple hours talking about business. They talk about the future of the company, the vision of the company, where they're headed. And then the next 3 or 4 days of that retreat, whatever you want to call it, on site, they're playing. They could be at the beach. They could be sightseeing. And by the way, this is all expenses paid by the company. And so what they're finding is, yes, that's a big, huge chunk of money for organizations to pay out. But when you're losing value of an employee because they're taking an enormous amount of sick time off, they're taking, PTO off, all of these things cost the organization money. So it's actually cheaper for them to say, hey guys, let's do, twice a year, let's do a 3-day offsite.
Right.
And we fly everyone in from around the world. So you're talking about, $50,000 to $100,000 in cost for that event or 2 events, whereas another organization might be paying out in, soft costs, what it costs when an employee's not there,
sure.
$150,000 in lost revenues.
Yep, totally agree with that. And I think the creating and launching and maturing a business gives us the flexibility to explore these concepts more. It's a bit more challenging for some of our customers who may be more established or bigger and are trying to navigate this. And I think also, even in the nonprofit world where having a physical asset is still kind of a beholden jewel amongst many organizations, it's a challenge for them to make a shift and say, hey, let's kind of change how we view the work week, and let's change how we view, physical location of our employees. We're about to shut this down, but Dr. Phillip, any other thoughts you want to share, or any shameless plugs you want to put out there?
Well, first of all, I just want to say real quick that organizations that truly value their assets will think seriously about doing things differently, because if they're not going to do it, their competitor's going to do it. And so we have to consider that our employees are an asset. And if we're truly really serious about our assets of our company, we have to change the way we think.
Sure.
So, all right. So shameless plug. You can find me on the internet at MaximumChange.com. You certainly can follow me on Twitter at Maximum Change. I also have a secondary Twitter account called OpenOrgs, OPENORGS. And that is because I am the author of this book called The Open Organization, and we're now in second print. You can find it on Amazon under The Open Organization. Now, there's 2 open organization books out there. There's one by Jim Whitehurst of the Red Hat Company. He's a colleague of mine, and he's taking that view from a different angle. Mine is more of a template for the 21st century organization. It is now in second print, and you can get it on Amazon for $30 right now. Awesome. Here's my shameless plug.
Awesome. I'm in the process of wrapping up my most recent book, Sustainability. And it's a book that walks nonprofits through the process of exploring non-traditional funding to support its mission. And I think as we talk about the 40-hour work week, the office organization, entrepreneurial skill sets, this book walks down that path, begins to walk nonprofit organizational leaders down the path of exploring how to develop an organizational infrastructure that enables it to become sustainable, to take in non-traditional funds, and how to exploit that, split those opportunities. So that is coming, and I'm excited about that. The training is coming. Be more, we agree. I don't know who you're talking to, whether it's me or Philip, but I'm sure Philip would agree to be a part of any webinar series. And so we thank you for being on, and everybody that's watching the replay, thank you for watching. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks with another great topic on leadership conversations, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.